Hey everyone, today we are learning about VMware Workstation, which is a virtualization software used for managing and testing different types of operating systems. Workstation Pro used to be a paid product of VMware. When Broadcom acquired VMware, they made the Workstation Pro software free for everyone. Let's log into Broadcom portal for obtaining Workstation Pro. Once logged in, navigate to My Download section. Click on Free Software Downloads. Scroll down and click on Workstation Pro. I am using Windows as host operating system, so I will be choosing Workstation Pro for Windows. Download the latest executable file. Click on download and save the file. Once the executable is downloaded, open the folder and install the executable. Once Workstation Pro is installed, let's open Workstation Pro. Let's create a sample virtual machine. We have sample virtual machine created. Now let's deep dive into some of the most important configurations in Workstation Pro. Navigate to Edit menu, click on Virtual Network Adapter and click on Change Settings. We have three interfaces here. Let's discuss each one of them. First, we will start with bridge interface. Bridged interface is like a replica of host network adapter. Let's say, for example, if the host network adapter has an IP of 192.168.0.4, let's say, so this is on dot zero network. Now, when we select bridged network interface, we will have like IP of then any number. So it will be connecting directly to router like host operating system. This is with the bridged interface. Whereas NAT interface uses network address translation protocol by host operating systems to give a different subnet IP for the virtual machine and provide the internet. Like for example, the network part of the NAT interface will always be different from the host interface. Both bridge interface and NAT interface will have network access. And here comes the last interface, which is host only interface. This interface is useful for communication between guest operating systems without access to internet or the host. I have used nomenclature interface for describing these three, but actually these three are network adapters: bridged, host only, and NAT. Let's see them in the host operating system. Here we have bridged interface and NAT interface. As I have explained before, host only is specific to guest operating systems within the Workstation Pro. There won't be any interface that is created within the host operating system. These adapters assigns IPs to guest operating systems in the Workstation Pro. Now go to sample virtual machine we have created before and edit virtual machine settings. In this, if we select network adapter, from here we can select whichever adapter we would like to use for our network needs. Let's explore preferences. With all the options here, the configurations will impact all the virtual machines within the Workstation Pro. So we can change where we can store all the virtual machines with this, and input configurations and much more. You can Go through them and configure them as per your needs. Let's explore View menu. In View menu, if we go to Customize and Library, we can see all the available virtual machines within Workstation Pro. From Tabs menu, we can navigate between different virtual machines, and from the Help menu, we can update the Workstation Pro. And last, finally, we will explore File menu. From File menu, we can create a new virtual machine, open new window of the Workstation Pro, or open the existing virtual machine, and you can explore other options here. Before, we have created sample virtual machine, but in reality it's not a real virtual machine. It is just a configuration file that loads the virtual machine. Now let's deep dive more into virtual machine configuration. Click on File, New Virtual Machine, choose Custom, click Next. I will install the operating system later. In this menu, if you are installing operating system from Microsoft vendor, select Microsoft Windows and select the operating system. If it is Linux, select from this menu and click on Next. For this sample, I am selecting Microsoft Windows 10. Click on Next. In this menu, we can select on which drive or folder all our virtual machine data is saved. So instead of having our virtual machine in default folder, which is in Documents Virtual Machines, let's select Downloads directory. Click on Next. Click on Next. In this menu, we can choose processors and cores per processors depending on your system configuration. Click Next. In this menu, we can configure the amount of RAM we can assign for the virtual machine. Before assigning the RAM, let's check the amount of RAM available in my host operating system. Go to Task Manager. I have 8 GB of RAM in my host operating system. Always keep in mind that the amount of RAM we assign for the virtual machine should never exceed the amount of RAM available in the host operating system. And always assign the RAM for virtual machine with respect to stable operation of the host operating system. Here we can see my host operating system is using roughly 2 GB of RAM for its operations. So when we assign RAM for the virtual machine, we can roughly select about 6 GB because 6 GB is not in use by the host operating system. But for optimal stability and operation of both virtual machine and host operating system, we can either choose 4 GB or 2 GB of RAM. I am choosing 2 GB of RAM because for Windows 10, 2 GB is good for optimal operation. Click on Next. In this menu, we can select different network adapter for required network communication. We have discussed this before, so I am selecting NAT adapter. Click on next. Uh, you can select this default configuration. Click on next. Next, create a new virtual disk. Next, in this menu, we can assign the amount of storage that can be used by the virtual machine. We can consider the same rules that we have discussed for the RAM configuration can be applied for storage configuration. With respect to option allocate all disk space now, without tick mark it is thin provisioning, and with tick mark it is thick provisioning. Like thin provisioning is about as the virtual machine size increases, the storage size in the host operating system increases, whereas for thick provisioning the storage is already allocated for the virtual machine. So it's best to always have this kept unchecked. Storing the virtual disk as a single file is optimal for performance. Click on next. Here we can change the disk file name of the virtual disk, and always all the virtual disk files will end with .vmdk format. Click on next and click on finish. Now we have a virtual machine configuration within the workstation, which is useful for installing operating system in it. Now let's navigate to the directory where all these configuration files are saved. We have configured this virtual machine to store all its configurations in music directory. These are the configuration files, and here is the explanation for each of them. Now let's load Windows 10 bootable ISO in this virtual machine configuration and install the operating system. Click on power on the virtual machine. As this video is more focused on Workstation Pro, we won't be discussing much about installing operating system. Windows 10 virtual machine installation is successfully completed. With focus on Workstation Pro, for all the Microsoft operating systems, when we install them on Workstation Pro, they won't provide optimal screen and other hardware capabilities. For optimal performance and other capabilities in Microsoft operating systems, we need to install VMware tools in the guest operating system. Right click on the virtual machine, click on install VMware tools. Then navigate to Explorer, this PC, and double click on VMware tools. These will install VMware tools for on the guest operating system. Click on finish and restart the virtual machine for changes to take effect. Previously, we have discussed about VM menu. If we click on that now, we can see all the grayed out options are available now. So we can perform different operations when the virtual machine is in powered on state. You can check all of them here. Now let's shut down the virtual machine. Close it. Remove from the library. So in the file menu option, if we click on open and if we go to music directory, we can select the VMX file and again load the virtual machine. So in this way, we can load different virtual machines obtained from different sources. And Workstation Pro is a type 2 hypervisor. There are two types of hypervisors, type 1 and type 2. If we are able to understand the logic behind Workstation Pro, it is easy to understand other hypervisors like VirtualBox, Amazon's EC2, Google's Compute Engine, and others. That's all for the day. Thank you.